Welcome to the Business Freedom Podcast with Jonathan Galoni, where we help businesses build systems, grow profits, and gain freedom. Welcome to the show. Today's episode is a little personal. I want to share how I went, my personal story from being a hardworking contractor, starting a business in my younger years, wearing every hat, to building, scaling, and eventually selling my business. And more importantly, why that journey led me to now be a coach and be a business coach to owners just like you. So I'm happy that you joined me today. So if I can take you back, and maybe you have a similar story. Growing up, I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. I always knew that I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't know what that meant. So, as you're supposed to do when you get out of high school, you go to college, and I went to business school. And through business school, I began to learn a lot of the nuts and bolts, the ins and outs of business. However, I began to think, why are these business professors that are the masters of the trade, why are they professors? Why aren't they successful business owners if that's what they're teaching? So that didn't sit very well for me in those years. So graduated college and got married right away, and then I started my business right away. The business that I started was basically what I was doing throughout my college years as my part-time job, but now into full-time work. I went onto my own to be a granite fabricator. And so we fabricated and installed granite countertops all over the San Diego County area. And business was good. And I began to grow. I had my own fabrication shop. I began to grow the team as well, begin to grow my leadership. And that went well. Have you ever felt, though, that the business that you own seems more like a job? Have you ever felt that you seem to be wearing all of the hats? That's how I began to feel. If it was accounts payable, if it was accounts receivable, if it was sales, if it was networking, if it was getting the job done, if it was finishing the job, if it was customer service, that was all the things that I had to do. That was all the hats that I had to wear. So we began to grow, and the team began to grow from one to two, three, four, five employees, and we had this sort of machine that was going forward. And these early wins were good for us, but they also led to a degree of chaos where I was putting in long hours myself, where I had cash flow pressure, trying to make sure that I could pay everybody, pay these four or five employees on time, every time, whether or not the job was paid for or not. And that began to turn into HR struggles. We're at hiring struggles, being able to get people that I could depend on. And then after a while, everything would depend on me. So basically, I had a job that was now disguised as a business. So I was part of a BNI, which is a networking group, and I enjoyed that. That helped me to kind of stretch myself. I got some really good contacts. And one day, this is sort of the turning point. I met a business coach, and she approached me because she knew one of my family members, and we hit it off pretty well. And she helped me realize where I needed help. She helped me to realize where my bottlenecks were in my process. So that began to brew in my mind, and I felt like I had hit some personal ceilings where I could only make more, I could only do more if I did more. If I put in more hours, then maybe we could grow the business. But what I had to do was work on myself. So some of the first breakthroughs that came from coaching were clarity of where we were going in the business, why we did what we did, and then also working into my leadership. And then I began to learn this key thing of working on my business, not just in my business. And that's a big difference where you can disconnect for just a few hours, minutes, if it is. Sometimes it's a whole day, and to work on your systems, to work on your business, not just getting the job done or getting the project done. So coaching didn't just grow my own personal business, but it grew me as a leader. It stretched me as a leader, and that was key to my success. So furthermore, coaching brought me into learning how to test and how to measure all of my financial metrics. How many leads was I bringing in? How often was I converting those leads? I felt that I was good at converting leads, but when I began to measure it, I see that I wasn't so good. So we implemented a few easy strategies to increase my conversion rate. That brought my customers. And then how many times was I doing business with each customer? I began to become aware of all of these different metrics that all lead to profit, all part of our coaching program today. See, some of the key lessons here during my coaching of my business was that systems create freedom, and teams create scale, and strategy then creates growth. So as we begin to scale, we begin to scale in every part of the business. We had a sales team, we had a production team, we had a finish team, and then we had a team just specifically working on where the business could grow. I remember and miss the leadership conferences that we would have just within our business, where we're just before of the five main leaders of the business, and we would strategize and work over the next 90 days on what we were going to do to better our business. As we bettered our business, we bettered our lives. We bettered our home lives. We bettered us as fathers and as parents, and that really began to hit home. And then come to about 20 years in the business, fast forwarding quite a bit, I felt that it was time for me to exit the business. I had different options what I could do, but I decided to list the business, and eventually we were able to sell the business. So that was a bit of a scary process, as you can imagine. But thankfully, working with an experienced broker, we were able to sell the business at a good point. I was able to retire at just the age of 41. So the ultimate payoff of selling my business was building a business that could continue to run without me, that could continue to go forward. And I'm so proud today that the business still runs with the same team, serving the same clients, and now is adding to that. So when you realize that the business has value beyond you, that you've built something that is going to keep going, that it doesn't take you to have every hat on, that's where the value is. All right, and we fast forward to today, and I have a passion for helping business owners avoid the same mistakes that I made. I want to see business owners grow, thrive, and have freedom that comes from their business. And I want them to be proud of what they do, because I think what they do is such a noble thing to add value into the lives of other people. So we start by getting our foundation in control, out of chaos and into control. We make sure that we know where we're going, where the business is headed, what our long-term goals, our short-term goals are. We make sure that we are in control of our time, in control of our daily schedule, in control of the hours that we put into the business. A lot of times that starts out with just being able to be at home for dinner every day of the week. That is a huge win a lot of times for the business owners that I work with. And then getting in control of your numbers, getting in control of the leads, knowing how to get more leads, how to convert those, how to increase your profit margins. Sometimes we're working on offense, on getting more sales, getting more leads, growing the business, and sometimes we're working on defense, where we are protecting what we have, where we are lowering our costs. This is all part of a coaching program. The big thing is we get to run our business in confidence. Confidence in our break-even point, so we know exactly where we need to be, time spent per project, the pricing that we need for each project, so that we can break even and be profitable. I help business owners stop surviving and start designing the business and life they actually want. So a lot of times I'm asked, well, how does coaching work? How does it work to work with you? I want to grow my business, but I just don't know where to start. And I would ask you, what would change if your business actually worked for you? What would change if your business actually worked for you? If you went from having a job to now having an actual profit producing business? And then how fast do you want to get there? How fast do you want to reach your goals? These are all questions that you need to answer, and you need to be held accountable. A lot of times that is with a coach, to be able to grow your business and get out of your business what you would like to get out of it. Well, thank you for joining me today on how I went from a contractor in chaos to full system implementation and now a coach, helping others create freedom, reach their own goals than they otherwise would on their own. If anything I just said sounds like you and you're looking for help, find my contact information below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode.